Rock and roll has created some of the most powerful songs in history, but the most listened to track of all time might not be the one everyone thinks it is. From the haunting acoustic whispers of Stairway to Heaven, to the raw, feverish energy of Twist and Shout, and the mysterious layers of Bohemian Rhapsody, these are the giants that defined our lives. These 10 songs will change your perception of rock and roll forever, revealing a secret that has been hidden in plain sight for decades. If you enjoy discovering stories like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And I am curious, which of these iconic rock songs has the deepest place in your heart? Let me know in the comments. Number 10, Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple, 1972. At number 10, it all begins with 4 simple notes that you have heard it in music stores, in garages, and in bedrooms across the globe. It is a riff that seems to exist independently of the band that created it. For a brief moment in the early 70s, a hotel fire in Switzerland inspired a simple 4-note sequence that would become the universal language of rock. The irony is that thousands of people can play this melody perfectly without ever knowing the name of the band or buying a single record. It is a piece of cultural infiltration, a sound that lives in the fingers of strangers. It was never just about the charts. It was about creating something so fundamental that it became indestructible. Even now, decades later, that rhythmic pulse remains the ultimate gateway into the world of the electric guitar. Number 9, More Than a Feeling by Boston, recorded in 1976. In a small basement in Massachusetts, a man named Tom Schultz spent 6 long years obsessing over every single note of this track. He was searching for the perfect melodic sound. A bridge between the raw energy of rock and the sweetness of pop. What he didn't know was that he was designing the blueprint for the future. Years later, Kurt Cobain would admit that when he wrote the anthem of the 90s, Smells Like Teen Spirit, he was simply trying to replicate the soul of this Boston hit. The DNA of this song is hidden inside the grunge movement. A secret foundation that most listeners never realized was there. It is a masterpiece of engineering and emotion, proving that a great musical structure never truly ages. It only waits to be rediscovered by a new generation. Number 8, By Time by Pink Floyd, 1973. The sound of those ticking clocks is something the human brain simply cannot ignore. Long before neuroscientists studied how music affects our neurons, Roger Waters and David Gilmour were experimenting with the physics of sound. They wanted to make you feel the weight of every passing second, not just in your ears, but in your entire body. Recent studies have shown that this specific track produces one of the most intense neural responses of any rock song ever recorded. It is a haunting reminder of our own mortality. Wrapped in a cinematic landscape of synthesizers and soaring guitar solos. It didn't just climb the charts, it stayed in our consciousness for over 50 years because the fear of running out of time is a feeling that never goes out of style. Number 7, I Don't Stop Believin' by Journey, 1981. Coming in at spot 7, this is the only rock song that truly outgrew its own era. When it first arrived, it was just a modest hit. An emotional anthem for late-night dreamers. But decades later, something unexpected happened. It came back to life online and went on to become the most downloaded catalog track in iTunes history. With no major promotion or reunion to fuel it, the song spread on its own, embraced by a whole new generation. Its unforgettable chorus carries a sense of hope that still resonates, proving that some songs aren't tied to a moment in time. They belong to anyone who's still holding on to a dream. Number 6, Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits, 1978. The story began in a lonely pub in London, where Mark Knopfler watched a mediocre band play to an empty room. From that moment of quiet observation, one of the most analyzed guitar styles in history was born. His finger-picking technique is still studied in music conservatories today. Not as a historical relic, but as a living mystery that few can truly replicate. The beauty of this track lies in the silence between the notes. Knopfler understood that what you don't play is just as important as what you do. 45 years later, the guitar still sounds fresher than anything recorded yesterday. It is the sound of a master storyteller using 6 strings instead of words, leaving us with a cool, effortless memory of a rainy London night. Number 5, Dream On by Aerosmith, 1973. Halfway up at number 5, this song began as a teenager's raw fear of the future and grew into one of rock's most powerful anthems of survival, crowned by a scream that still inspires people to keep going. Steven Tyler was only 14 years old when he started writing the lyrics to this song. It was the desperate cry of a teenager who feared the future and understood the fragility of life before he even reached adulthood. When it first came out, the world wasn't ready. It was a failure until it was re-released 3 years later and finally touched the hearts of millions. Since then, every time someone feels like giving up, they find their way back to this anthem of survival. That final, iconic scream isn't just a vocal performance, it is the sound of pure human willpower. It remains the first choice for anyone needing a reason to keep dreaming, a song that bridges the gap between the innocence of youth and the wisdom of age. Number 4, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, 1975. Landing at number 4, this 6-minute enigma still captivates the world, rising across generations with its unmatched blend of chaos and beauty, proving that true masterpieces never fade. They evolve. Even today, this song sits in the top 5 most streamed tracks on Spotify, competing with artists who were born decades after it was recorded. It is a masterpiece that defies every rule of radio and every law of music production. When the world rediscovered Mercury's story through film a few years ago, the plays for this song increased by 16% in a single week. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was a new generation realizing that there is nothing else like it.
Carry on, there's nothing
It is a chaotic, beautiful, and operatic journey that demands you listen until the very last note. It is the song that keeps growing, long after the man who sang it left the stage. Number 3. Twist and Shout by the Beatles, 1963. This was never supposed to be a polished studio recording. It was the final song of a grueling session, captured in a single take because John Lennon's throat was literally bleeding from a fever. What you hear in his voice isn't an act. It is real, raw desperation. He knew his voice was failing, and he gave everything he had left into that microphone. George Martin knew they could never record a second take. The energy was too high, the stakes were too real. It became the best-selling physical single for the band in many territories, surpassing even their most famous ballads. It is a reminder that sometimes the most perfect moments in music come from the most imperfect circumstances. It is the sound of a revolution catching fire in real time. Number 2. Hotel California by the Eagles, 1976. 16 million physical copies were sold, but the numbers don't tell the full story. The most extraordinary thing about this track is how it continues to haunt listeners under the age of 25. It is a song about a trap that has no expiration date, the dark side of the American dream, the place where you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That feeling of being stuck in a beautiful prison is something every generation understands. The Eagles captured a specific kind of California melancholy and turned it into a universal myth. The twin guitar solo at the end is more than just music. It is the sound of the gates locking behind you. It remains a timeless ghost story that we all love to get lost in over and over again.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
Number 1. Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, 1971. Taking the top spot, this 8-minute epic redefined what a rock song could be. An unstoppable journey that builds from a whisper to a legendary climax, standing as the ultimate peak no one has ever surpassed. For over 20 years, this was the most requested song in the history of American radio, despite the fact that it was 8 minutes long and never released as an official single. Jimmy Page refused to cut it down because he believed the song was a journey that needed to be traveled from beginning to end. He was right. The song is designed to prevent you from leaving. It begins with a gentle acoustic whisper, and slowly, brick by brick, builds a wall of sound that eventually explodes into the greatest guitar solo ever recorded. You cannot turn it off halfway through because your heart is climbing that stairway with them. It has been 50 years and no one has found the ceiling yet. It remains the undisputed peak of rock and roll, a song that feels as vast and eternal as the sky itself. Rock and roll was never just about sound. It was about moments that refused to fade. From the first note that hooked you to the final chord that stayed with you for years, these songs didn't just define generations. They connected them. They remind us that great music doesn't age. It evolves, finding new meaning every time it's played. Maybe the greatest song isn't just the one we hear the most, but the one we carry with us the longest. And somewhere out there, another timeless melody is already waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment the number 3 below. And if you love these musical journeys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story. Thank you for watching and following along. I will see you in the next videos.